age characterized by the ease with which we discard old ideas for new, by the complete readiness with which we throw away the theory or gadget which does not work for something new which does. We had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not a basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should see newsreels of lunar flights? Of course it was. I think we're almost done reading. It seems like a long one.
Yeah,
Where are we getting to the point? How about this? Logic is good stuff. You like that paragraph?
I've lost you already. Go ahead, yeah.
I went scrolling down.
Great
I thought
stuff.
this was long. Okay, we'll keep going. When we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. The Wright brothers, almost childish faith that they could build a machine which would fly was the mainspring of their accomplishment. Without that, nothing could have happened. We agnostics and atheists were sticking to the idea that self-sufficiency would solve our problems. When others showed us that God's sufficiency worked with them, we began to feel like those who had insisted the Wright brothers would never fly. Logic is good stuff. We liked it. We still like it. It is not by chance we were given the power to reason, to examine the evidence of our senses, and to draw conclusions. That is one of man's magnificent attributes. We agnostically inclined would not feel satisfied with a proposal which does not lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. Hence, we are at pains to tell why we think our present faith is reasonable, why we think it more sane and logical to believe than not to believe, why we say our former thinking was soft and mushy when we threw up our hands in doubt and said, "You don't know." When we became alcoholics crushed by the self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing.
Yeah, stop there.
Yeah, it's good. God either is or he isn't. What would our choice be?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. I just want to go to the one thing on the beginning of it, page 52, where it says here, when he's talking about all these things that were unheard of a few years before, he says, we were liberated, but in most fields, our generation has witnessed complete liberation of our thinking. Yeah, complete liberation of our thinking. So in a way, what does that imply? The thinking usually has a very low ceiling, yes? It's defined and it's programmed. And the thinking, it's just almost like if you ever stop and sit and go and give your mind an opportunity to think different, see what happens. Just sit here, go, let's think of something. And then maybe it has two ways of thinking about it. Let's say one person. You sit there, all right, I give you the opportunity, the stage is cleared, think something else. It has no fucking idea. It's limited completely. Yeah. And the corral truly, the fence truly is my thinking. Yeah. So this is the liberation of all thinking about these other things, about flying. They go on and on and on. You have to give a great credit to the people of AA. They really bent over backwards to try to allow people to get in the door, because they knew if they got in the door and did what we did, they would get relief. But the thing was getting them in the door. So they just freaking contorted themselves going on with all these riffs. Yeah. But basically, is in some other fields, we have been liberated from our thinking about those things. But in self, there has been seemingly no liberation in our thinking. And the thinking is the way we're bonded to this idea of self. And in their way here, just like we had closed-mindedness that, there's going to be planes flying or going to the moon or whatever, we have a tendency to be closed-minded. That's why they put that statement, contempt prior to investigation. Please, please check yourself with this idea of contempt prior to investigation, because this is the thinking is sort of small and it's not liberated. It's bound to this idea of self. It's bound to the idea that you're the thinker and you are the only thing that's truly worthy of being thought about for long. Yeah. And then it incessantly thinks about you. Yeah. So, yeah, they're saying in a way, if you can be liberated about another topic concerning your thinking, you can be liberated about every topic concerning your thinking. Yes. In other words, the possibility or the talent or the ability is available, but something is binding us to this idea. Yeah. And then our thinking, it's so obvious that in people who have crossed the line and are real alcoholics, their thinking is in a certain set of deep grooves. Yeah. They look outside of themselves to blame. Yeah. It's just, when you meet an alcoholic who's under alcoholism, you don't even hear from him or her. You hear alcoholism. Yeah. I mean, it's the same old, same old. You've been listening to the same station, but you call it Paul, but they're calling it Steve, but it's the same station. And it rotates around this idea of self. This is why we say in the third step, please relieve us of the bondage of self. The bondage of self is unliberated thought concerning one topic, you. Yeah. It's not liberated. It's not freed. Yeah. And even though there's tons of miracles, yeah, like you see enough people fly, you know now people can fly, but not in the head. You see enough people get sober, you don't see it. Yeah. You don't, because there's a block. There's something going on. Our thought is infected. Yeah. The parasite, the problem resides in the mind. We're living under infected thoughts. This is why it says when we do this program, you'll suddenly start having intuitive thoughts. You'll have different thoughts. You'll be thinking of others. What? Yeah. Not as others as the reason why you're fucked or you're not getting this, but you'll be thinking of others in a way of how you can be of service to them. Yes? So a lot of the situation, it could be a quick or a slow liberation from thought. Yeah. But nonetheless, there's going to be a liberation from thought. And from a specific kind of thought, the thoughts that are all about you, that lead to, which precedes the first drink. Yeah. We get restored to sanity concerning the thoughts that precede the first drink. Yeah. And then once you're relieved of the bondage of this disease, that one of the recoveries is the liberation of thought. Yeah. You don't liberate the thought. You're bound by the thoughts. Yeah. But there's a liberation of thoughts through what we practice, service, keeping a commitment, you know, everyone in the room is judgmental and absorbed, but the new person comes in, feels a love and tolerance. Yeah. Because the we starts overriding the me. Yeah. But when we're sitting in our little room, drinking our little shit, going over our resentment list, seeing no fault in ourselves, we're just going to keep on keeping on drinking. Yeah. The thoughts will be constantly rotating. And truly, the biggest bondage of thought is you being the thinker of the other thoughts. Yeah. You don't see that being the thinker is a thought. It's a thought that arises and then somehow transmutes itself into the thinker of the thoughts. But it's a thought. There's a thought that you're the thinker, and then suddenly you're the thinker of all thoughts. Yeah. When you're doing something you really love, you lose the sense of being the thinker, and the thoughts usually are not fucking with you when you're on a 12-foot wave going down the face. There you're not. You don't have any time for fucking thoughts. The water's splashing, you're this and that. People, you're just in the moment. Yeah. There could be thoughts, but without a thinker, you're not paying attention to them much. What causes you to pay attention to the thoughts is you believe you're the thinker of them. Yes? If you saw them, let's say you were a sky and some cloud came in. Yeah. And those clouds affected a lot of shit. Now, if they were what would happen is the clouds would completely be in a condition of forgetting skyness. Yeah. So the only thing that would seem to be real would be the clouds. Yeah. This is the bondage of self. We're dying for some sky. We're dying for some fucking presence. We're dying to breathe in this moment without it getting caught into the idea of a future fucked up moment or a past remorse. Yes? Yeah. I know one thing. There's no way I would have done 12 pages of this. I would just say, hey, bro, you're fucked. Yeah. Yeah. But this was the beginning of the whole thing. Now, sometimes bending over backwards isn't helpful now. Sometimes it's like, fuck, you're fucked. Yeah. If you don't have any interest in being unfucked, I'm not interested in hanging out right now. I have better things, or I can be used in a better way somewhere else. Yeah. I'm not trying to fucking crack open every nut. Some nuts have to ripen to crack open. Yeah. But here they didn't have anything. They didn't have rehabs. They had fucking insane asylums. They didn't have meetings everywhere. Yeah. So they were trying to be extremely freaking helpful. But now being extremely helpful sometimes isn't helpful. Because sometimes you do a disservice to someone, keeping them from their bottom or trying to keep them from their bottom. Yeah. And you're not serving them. You're just serving you. Yeah. You get a great relief being of help, but sometimes that being of help isn't based on wisdom. Yes. It gets it's trippy. We were talking about it yesterday. You know, let's say the judicial system. The hardest thing the judicial system has to deal with is this is a subjective experience. Yeah. So let's say a friend of mine was in an abusive situation for years. Yes. For years. Somebody was really working them and they were driven to do something to that person. And that's where the court system is absorbed in. They don't care about all the years of abuse. You hit them. Yeah, that's all that matters. And there's the court. Yeah. Yet, because they can't, how can you have laws about a dream? Yeah. If you and I are giving everything all the meaning it has, everyone who goes to jail doesn't have the same experience of jail. Yeah. And who's going to be able to quantify that experience if it's subjective? Yeah. So when someone hits their bottom and completely flips out because they drop some red wine on their white rug, yeah, who am I to say it isn't as bad as falling, into a fucking cliff with your car, in a sense, yeah? Because they're having a subjective experience. Now, if we're absorbed in the subject that we are not in the subjective experience, we can have hell and heaven. Yeah. This is what we used to say. You drop an alcoholic into heaven, it's hell in a day. Yeah. Because the subjective experience is based on a false subject. You. And it's like an adoration. It's just it's an addiction. Yeah. And so little things are blown up into big things every day. That's what I love about when it says around page 60 something, when you lose interest in self, you lose interest in your little plans and designs. When you were absorbed in you, was any one of your plans little? And when was any one of your designs little? They were all big. Yeah. They were all big. The greatest event of your day was someone stepped in ahead of you online. And you didn't have the balls to say anything, so you just cooked and resented, and it's insane. Yeah. Life's calling you. There's hummingbirds, shit, there's stuff that you go, no. My subjective experience is completely obsessed with the subject of the subjective experience. Ay, ay, ay. And of course you want to get loaded. When I first got loaded, it was my answer to obsession with self. I was super uncomfortable as a 12-year-old. I didn't know fucking why. I didn't have acne. I looked okay. Everyone thought I was sort of cool. But when I looked inside, I didn't see anything. It was like wild. And I got nervous and anxious, and my head stoked those fires. And then when I drank, I got some relief. But as soon as I drank, I found out I had magnetic appeal to, people in fucking uniform. And they didn't see my medicine as medicine. And it was very, very fucking confusing for me as a young kid. Because I felt the only way I felt all right was by drinking. And I kept getting arrested for the fucking thing. Yeah, it was insane. So you have to admit we're in an interpretive experience, aren't we? And don't you believe that there's either you're aware of it or you're following an interpretation given to us by the mental GPS? The mental GPS just doesn't get us to where we're going. It talks incessantly about it the whole way along. Yeah. So the liberation of thought. You know how liberated your thought will be when you're not the thinker of them? They'll start, they won't be absorbed around you. They'll be free range thoughts. They'll go into other ideas. Maybe you'll come up with a project today. Maybe you'll see this and that could be put on a canvas and look pretty fucking good. Maybe your head won't be so fucking absorbed in, like this way. Yeah. That's liberation. The liberation is from the thinker. That's when the thoughts are liberated. I'm the thinker. Do you believe you're the digester of all the food you ate yesterday? Sounds absurd, doesn't it? You know how more absurd it is believing you're the thinker of a much more subtle process called thoughts? Could you, man? How did you jump in to be the thinker of that? You won't even touch you're the doer of the digestive tract or the beater of the heart or the pumper of the blood. That seems so absurd. But the thoughts is the whole basis of the bondage of self, that they're your thoughts and they're about you. I'd like to see you manufacture a thought. I would. I like to see, what is it? There's a little bit of something and you put a little bit of something else and now it's a thought. And it looks at you and goes, Papa, Mama. So it's from you. It's your thought. That's insane. There's freedom from what? The bondage of thought. How does that look? You stop believing you're the thinker. At least start with, if you hear your thoughts over and over again at meetings, they're not your thoughts. Yeah. That's a shared event. That doesn't mean it's yours. It's an activity. Something has infected everyone in the room. A same thingness has affected all the differences. Yeah. So now we think alike, we act alike, we feel alike. Yeah. So yeah, if you're bondage yourself, problem resides in the mind. That's a pretty good direction. Yes, it does. It narrows it. The problem does not reside in the other people. It does not reside in your where you are in life. It resides in the mind. Yeah. Okay. How do I where is my contact with mind, so to speak? Well, it's thoughts mostly. Yes, it seems like it. Doesn't it? Your elbow isn't talking, is it? You don't hear it in your elbow. It doesn't, it seems to be somewhere around here. So the problem resides in the mind. So the thoughts are used to reinforce the problem. Yeah. To be liberated from those thoughts would be, what are the thoughts about? What is the central thing that is constantly thought about? You. Yeah. How are you pictured by the thoughts as a body? Yes. Are you just a new born momentary body? No, you're a historical body. Yeah. And then you worry in the future, or the head worries in the future about a historical body. And when you think about you in the past, you're pictured as a body. So for all intents and purposes, the thought system that we're listening to with great devotion takes you as a body. So when there's the possibility that there's a spirit, you're introduced to the spirit as something the body can acquire. Yeah. The body can get spiritual. Yeah. I got spirit. Yeah. The body remains the central focus. And now you are trying to graft spirituality, whatever you think that is, onto a surface called the body that doesn't have an adhesion for spirituality. So the best you can do is maybe look like you're spiritual. Maybe you have a loving gaze, you're talking in a monotone, you're holding all your anger and fury and acting pretty cool. So yeah, you're spiritual, but there's a lot of work to hold that breath. It's like a spiritual girdle and you're ready to explode at any moment. But what would happen if you were liberated from the thoughts? Maybe you would see yourself as something other than a body. What? Yeah. Maybe a category, you could be categorized as a spirit. And when you sense that, it may feel more right than the idea of being a historical thing. Yeah. And maybe there's another liberation, just like the idea that you couldn't fly and now you realize you can fly. The idea that you're a body, maybe you're not a body. I'm not saying it's true or not. But what would happen if you sense you were a spirit? Wouldn't that be a very high form of maintaining your spiritual condition? Seeing your condition to be of spirit? And wouldn't the way it looked to maintain it, wouldn't it look different if you are it than if you're trying to become it? I think there's a whole lot of work trying to become something that you already are as something that you're not. I see that as an extreme amount of effort and work. But if you are willing to give up the ghost about being something you may not be, you'll find that you're spirit. Yeah. And then what happens? Wow, the thoughts are liberated from the bondage of self because you don't see them as yours. You just don't. Yeah. So when they come, you look as just like you would look like at a dog that's not your dog. You'd see the dog, but you wouldn't be following it after it left your range of perception. Yeah. Because it was just a dog. It wasn't yours. The same thing with thoughts. Thoughts will come and they'll skirt over the surface of the screen. Yeah. No decisions will be made based on them. You won't be directed by it, and you won't be driven crazy also by it because they're not your thoughts. Hallelujah. These are like Kathleen read pages and pages of, oh, we're stuck in old ideas, and then they get disproved. People fly. The scientists said there was no way fly. All this shit happens. Yes. There's a principle there. It can happen in the eternal landscape. It can happen in the subjective experience. If you're not the subject of all the subjective experiences, you'll travel lighter through the subjective experience. You will. Because you will not take yourself so seriously, like Rule 62. You won't see that as an order. You will observe that you're not taking yourself so seriously. You're not ordered to not take yourself so seriously. That doesn't work, does it? No. You observe that you're in another condition, that you're not taking yourself so seriously. Yeah. Touch the ceiling. It's fucking porous. Yeah. You don't fly through the ceiling. Something takes you out of it. Like it says, you'll be placed in a position of neutrality. You'll be taken out of this from the bondage of thought into a liberation of thought. Yeah. Thoughts will still happen, but you'll be liberated from many of their effects. Yeah. And the amount of decisions that are based on these self-thoughts will diminish. Yes. And you'll have less shit to deal with and less shit to clean up. To the point where you may not do step 8 or 9 for years because you never get to hurting something or walking on someone's foot. So you don't have to make an amend because you bring the shit to step 6 and 7 before it brings you to avoiding 8 and 9 and then fucking drinking and getting loaded. Yeah. A lot of us have been under this influence. I'm not talking about a theoretical thing. I'm talking about observations I've seen over the years in myself and others. Not as the unique selves, but as principles being applied and producing effects. Yes? So I went to AA meetings for months in the beginning, still do. Sat there in a huge cocoon of terminal uniqueness. Unbelievable. Now, I never felt it when I was completely always in a state of being terminally unique. I went into meetings and shit that I wasn't noticing, I started to notice. And one of the first things I noticed was a sense of feeling so fucking unique. Yeah. And really living under an idea that no one could think like I did. No one felt like I did. No one had done the heinous things that I did. And I walked around in this like cocoon, not open to any other evidence than the one I was being fed by the head. I sat in the back of AA meetings. At first, someone told me it's good to sit in the front. I took that suggestion. I ended up sitting in the front most of the time. All these things. And while I was sitting there, I started to hear people share their thoughts. I did. Tons of them. A lot. I heard people share their feelings, and I heard people tell the insane things they were driven to do while under the influence. And after a couple of months, I could only come to two conclusions. How did these people get my thoughts, or they're not my thoughts? Yeah. The same thoughts that were driving them, and how they were driven was by calling them theirs, were doing the same thing where I was, and I were calling them mine. Yeah. Same thing. Every one of us are calling the same thoughts ours. You call them yours, I call them mine. Yeah. You call them mine, I can call them yours. Yeah. It's like a buffet we're all sharing. There's no fucking unique, exotic, fucking special every day. It's the same old, same old. Observe, just sit and observe, listen. Does everyone that you meet in AA and stuff like that, they sure sound like you in some level, and they feel like you, and they think like you. So they can't be you, and you can't be you. What? Yeah. I just want to be a better you. I want to be relieved from the bondage of self as a self. Good luck. Great. That's what we were trying to do getting loaded. We were trying to be relieved of the bondage of self as a self. That's why it doesn't freaking work. Yeah. I want to experience my absence, but I want to be there. It doesn't work that way. You lose interest in you, and you gain interest in others. One lose, one gain. Yes? Lose interest in self, you gain interest in others. I want it to go the other way. I want to be incredibly interested in myself and observe that sometimes I'm interested in others and get great credit and feel pride about that. No, it doesn't work that way. There's a losing and a gaining. Yeah. Yeah. So this is just a humble observation of 36 years of being under the influence of this program. Yeah. Now, I'm not in intensive care like I was in the beginning. I'm not having a lot of necessary operations and then even elective operations. That period is done. Yeah. I'm not doing a lot of stuff. I'm just coasting on the momentum because I'm running along with the wave. Yeah. I'm not going against it. And to me, truly, it's the easiest off the way. So when people come in and they think, it's a lot of work and it's really uncomfortable because they're leaving one kind of condition and moving into another. And then when their head projects a future, they think they're going to feel like they feel right now in the first month. You're not. As the years go on and you're under this influence, you're going to be you won't even be able to recognize yourself. You're not going to. It's not going to be any way your head thinks it's going to be. That's the great news about this message. Yeah. You just get in the habit of being sober and you find out. And I'll tell you, it's going to bring a lot of gratitude or AW&E and an honoring. Yes. It is. It's just a natural response for something that can do for you what you can't do for yourself. Playing a huge role in your life now. Finally, thank God. Yeah, exactly. There's a thanking of whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And then you do gratitude lists until the attitude of gratitude takes hold. Yeah. You do. You do things because something isn't there yet, but that something that isn't there yet is going to show up. Yeah, it is. Yeah. What you were praying one day for, you'll be praying from. This works. That's the beauty of it. It works. You will have a new attitude and a new outlook, a new freedom and a new happiness. You'll have a new basis that your life is relying on or is built on instead of the old basis. Yeah. And I'll tell you, the way you felt in a certain house, you were not the house. If you get moved into a nicer house, you're going to respond in kind. Yeah. You've been in a very bad condition, a parasitical relationship that's been very, very abusive to us. Yeah. And now you're going to be liberated from that parasitical relationship. Yeah. You're going to have a relationship with a higher power, but it's not going to be parasitical. Yeah. It's going to be win-win. It's going to be completely different than the old employer, the new employer. Yeah. And don't believe you're not going to be employed. You're going to be used. The action figure is a tool. It's here to express and to be used. You're going to be used. What's going to use you? Is it going to be faith in finite self or faith in the infinite? Is it going to be the old employer or a new employer? Yeah. But you're going to be employed. You're going to be used. Which is it? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm stoked, man. Yeah. I'm just stoked. Can you imagine if you were getting loaded? It's just, yeah, it's insane. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Who's on it? Oh, it's Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. If anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand. I see Reuben has got his hand up. Come on in, Reuben.
Oh, all right. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Reuben.
I have a question, but I don't know exactly if this will fit this Zoom meeting. So if it don't fit, you have to say it to
All
me.
right.
I am a father of my daughter is right now at the 12-step program, 28 in rehab. And I'm the father, so I'm asking this question out of the perspective of a father from a daughter who has an addiction.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm actually searching for pointers how to deal with it. I had a family day at rehab, and I had to write a letter and an impact letter, and it was so hard for me because out of the way of thinking about the non-dualistic thinking. So I'm asking you, maybe you can help me to give me some, she gonna live with me after she come out of the center. And everybody say I have to be firm and strict rules and boundaries and that kind of thing. And that is really hard for me. So I'm asking you, what's your, yeah, maybe you can share some ideas
Well,
how to deal with that.
I would see if there's codependent, anonymous, or Al-Anon meetings there. Yeah, where you live.
Yeah, that there is, but
Look it up and just don't have to do anything. Just go there and sit a little bit because most of them are having a similar situation probably that you are, not that different. And you pick up pointers. Yeah. And
yeah,
you see what works and doesn't work. And don't try to bring the idea of the non-duality into it because it's already sense felt there. You don't have to think about it. Just be open to be moved in the spirit of service. You know, how can I be of service to my daughter? Yeah. And then just stay open and you'll be moved or guided and just try the best you can to follow the guidance and see what happens. Yeah. But
yeah,
there's a huge support system because obviously one of the names of alcoholism, it's a family disease. And it's set off these offshoots of people who aren't alcoholics, but they're connected to an alcoholic or an addict, and they need to have some defense mechanisms because it's not your daughter that's going to affect you. It's going to be the alcoholism that has your daughter. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And they are both treated differently. Yeah, the alcoholism wants you to enable it. Yeah. And it's good, it's wise to ask for the eyes to see the difference, because you'll see your daughter, but the alcoholism may be running the show at that moment. Yeah. And therefore that demands a different way you handle it than if it's your daughter. Yeah. And so there are experts at this in Al-Anon and Codependence Anonymous and stuff like that. And you can pick up some good pointers, or have someone that you can call as a mentor in that area. Yeah. While you're navigating a space with your lovely daughter and an active addict, let's say. So you need to, yeah. This is when you most want to be guided, because, and what is the greatest posture to be guided is admitting you can't do it. Yeah. Yeah. You just can't pull it off. So you ask something to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I had this experience. We were sharing about it the other day. I have the privilege of speaking at this rehab in the East Coast for about, I don't know, maybe 16 more years, a lot of years. And this one time I came up, and they have a funky building, which is where the office is, and really lopsided building. And so the rooms, you could drop a coin, it goes to the other side very quickly. And there's a small cramped office, and my friend Nicoletta, who somewhat runs the place, is working with people. And so there was these two people my age. I'd always like to say they were older, but it's getting to the point I can't say that. But let's say they were older. And they were sitting there, and I fell right into the situation. And they were attempting to get their son, who had been in this program, back in, because he had left and gotten into a bad car accident, and his back was broken. Now, these people were both many years in sobriety, so they knew their love for their child wasn't probably going to move him. Yes, which must be very difficult as a parent, to believe that your love may not be enough to help the son. Yeah, but they were very clear about that. It was amazing to sit there. So here was all this love, but very, very well directed. Yeah, very well directed. They were going to do what they could for him, but they couldn't do everything for him. Yeah, but they were going to do what they could for him, but they very clear they couldn't do everything for them. Yes. So this is, I've only seen through observation, because I haven't had any biological kids. I haven't had any people, you know, I don't have that connection to people, So I haven't been in that predicament. I'm just talking about from the observer point of view. I've observed it a lot. Yeah. So that would be my suggestion. Someone maybe here has more intimate experience, could put on the chat, and maybe you could talk with them, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Anyone here? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome, bro. Yep.
Yeah. It is very helpful. All your lessons.
Great. Great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the people who most want the other person to get it are probably the least people they're going to listen to. It's just the way it goes generally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked by when I was there on the family day, by all the guilt they put on them. You know, it was really all about guilt. You know.
Yes.
And that was hard for me to go into. So they say that my letter was way too soft because I was only sharing love, tried to share love, and wrote that down. And now I'm really confused about, I have to have boundaries at my house. I have to punish her when she don't do the rules and that kind of things. And that's for me so hard. So
yes, but see, it's not an either or. It's not like rules or love. It's rules with love. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is how our black and white head needs to learn the grayness of things. Yeah. So it's not like you're going to be like a commandante to your daughter, but you're also not going to, yeah. So it's like you're a good dancer. You just got to learn the moves a little. And there's a lot of people who've been on this dance floor and I've had that, yeah. So they had to learn. And part of the learning and the joy of it is to pass on the learning to others who are in the same situation. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you very much, Paul.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Any other questions today? Kurt's going in.
Hey, thanks for your talk, Paul. And I just want to share a little experience with Reuben. You know, my son went through treatment too. Was a heroin addict. And keep it short, I was told by a guy many years ago, 30 years ago probably. He said something to me about this, and it really landed when I started going to Al-Anon. And he said, if I rob you from your pain, you have to start over again from the very beginning. And, you know, it's kind of like what Paul was talking about. I'm in total agreement with what he said, just total. Because I've worked with people and families, and same thing. But if I rob you from your pain, you got to start over again from the very beginning. And that allowed me to kind of back off and let my son hit his own bottom, but be there and love him where he was in the condition. And he's great. He came by this morning at 5:30. It's been years later. Yeah, so there's some great experience in Al-Anon and in AA. So that's all I have. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you. And there's so many of us have tons of experiences with this. And because again, it's a family, this infection, in a energetic way is contagious. Yeah. It triggers aspects that you may not know about you, like codependent and shit like that, or enabling. The catalyst of the addiction or the alcoholism is going to trigger things in us that may not have been, they were latent, so to speak, but the infection will bring them out, and you get to see what some people would call your illness, your sickness. Yeah. It's yeah, it's crazy. Yeah? It really is. I remember humbly when I came in, I lost all respect with the people that put up with my bullshit. I did. The people I respected were the ones that kicked me out or put a boot up my ass, even though I was bitching about it when it happened. But inside, deeper inside, I wanted to get caught, so to speak. I wanted someone to, not let me stay or whatever and have to, yeah, something, because I couldn't put on the brake. I couldn't put on the brake. I would, in a weird way, I may have been saying one thing, but another part of me wanted to be stopped. I was like a runaway fucking train. Yeah. And then, thank God I had my own event, but yeah, when I got sober, I really had, the people who wouldn't enable me were the ones I remembered. Really, they were. And so that's why I feel, many of us unwittingly can be doing, it's a disservice to keep people from their bottom, like you said, or rob them from their pain, because the pain may be necessary to bring the new dawn, I mean, it was in my case, and it's one is in a lot of people. And in the old days, it was that, you know, they've raised the bottom. That was one of the things AA did. Yeah. But raising the bottom brings about a lot of other situations or a lot of conditions that had been eradicated from the bottom. They're not eradicated now. So there's needs to be work, and it has to extend in different ways. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Everything has an expense. So yeah, the bottom has been raised, but then now it produces other effects. Yeah, where the bottom could have been so convincing, those deep bottoms, that you were convinced. Yes. Yeah, you may be at a $60,000 rehab and be convinced, but then you leave and you're unconvinced. Yeah. So yeah, just the way it goes. You know, yeah, you move the plant into someplace else, but there's other shit there that was eradicated from the bottom that isn't eradicated yet. Yeah. So we have a whole system of support so that you know, the awakening process can go on, because the essential admission is not drinking and using a day at a time. And just keep that as your sort of momentary vow, and then everything else will proceed. The catalyst of recovery will trigger. Yeah. And it may look like you're participating in recovery, but a lot of times it'll be like you're the effect of recovery. Yeah. In the statements they describe on 84, it says all this shit's happening with no thought or effort on your part. So you've moved from participating in a recovery into being at the effect of recovery. Recovery becomes a momentum of its own. Yeah. Hasn't you been pushed all these years by that momentum? I haven't. I'm not lifting weights in my recovery. I'm like on a long coasting. It's amazing. Yeah. Do what you need to do today, and there'll be less shit you need to do probably. Yeah. Yeah. If you know, they always used to do this. If you don't get one of the previous steps, you probably have to go back there. Just the way it goes. So a lot of people aren't convinced of the first step, and then they hit a certain point, and it's affecting their participation in the other steps. So inevitably for them, a lot of them, life brings them back to the first step or something. Yeah. And so that you can get convinced. They don't have to drink or use, but they're brought back there somehow, and the review, you know, gets completed, and then they move on. And now they go right into the fourth step. They're not balking or shit like that, because something else needed to be seen concerning the first step. We have ample support for all this. This isn't always a linear thing, 1 to 12 right through. Yeah, you may have gone through something that you were not super clear about, and you have ample opportunity to go back without drinking and using. You can go back to step 1 or step 2. Yes? Yes. Doesn't have to be dramatic and get completely fucked up to go back to step 1. You could just have a simple recognition. Hey, wait a minute. I feel like I'm still in the state of managing all day. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah. We can't write these directions out. They're lived. Yeah. How are you going to write these things out? Because you can't just go straight. There's different angles. Yeah. And so there's many of us who have lived a lot of these angles. Yeah? And so we can share about it with the hopes that because you may be under something right now and you don't seem to know it, but if you hear it from someone else, you may recognize, oh, I'm under that same thing right now. Yeah. Yeah. So Hmm. Anyone else, Martin?
Yeah, Walter had his hand up earlier. Walter, you want to come?
Walter. Can't hear you yet.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, there we are. Yeah. Hey, good morning. I'm now about 4 years sober, which is a bloody miracle.
Yeah.
I gave up all hope. I didn't do it. I'm powerless. I'm convinced about it. I stopped smoking after 50 years of heavy chain smoking, which is another miracle. Still, you know, all these thoughts, it's overpowering. I know this serenity, you know, I know it. I want to go back there. But then again, you know, in the community, with the service, with trying to help people, I find it sometimes pretty confusing when over here in Holland there is it's an industry of helping. If the 12 steps don't work, you can go to the clinic, you know, or you go to another clinic, or coming out of the clinic 1 week sober, going back on a holiday trip to Thailand. And so, and when I hear it, I sometimes in the rooms I have to laugh about it, you know. And then people are, I don't want to put people down, but it's so hilarious, you know. And so it's to me confusing, you know, from what to do. Be on my own, which I'm already a lot. And then again, you know,
Walter,
pardon?
I would surf Zooms in other countries, Walter.
Surf Zoom.
Yeah, go to different Zooms from different countries.
Okay, like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then maybe you can be the host of a meeting. Just ask if there's any service to be done. And there's so many, some of these are really interesting. There's some real
Okay,
interesting.
because I'm doing already surfing over here in Amsterdam, you know, I'm chairman and whatever, you know, but it's so small here.
Yes, you need a bigger
Okay.
venue. The Netherlands is too small for you, Walter. You got to go in, you got to share yourself at other Zooms. No, really. I mean, there's a guy I know, this Irish guy, he has a meeting from Berlin and it's turned into a huge networking of shit. I haven't spoken there in a little while now, but all this is happening. You know, because a lot of people have the same situation. It's, even though it may be a big place you're in, it's very small to you. So Zoom is incredible. Go down to some Southern California, chillax, surfer type meetings. Just go there, everyone. Yeah.
That's a good idea, you know.
I bet you also Kurt knows a lot of stuff in recovery Zooms, I'm sure.
Okay,
More than I know. Yeah.
Okay, I will chat with him.
And you
Good
can actually
advice, you
get a
know.
commitment there.
Good
That's
advice.
yeah.
Thank you again, Paul. Pardon? Thank you again, Paul, for all the Zoom meetings. It was extremely helpful to me.
Well, you've been extremely helpful to me, Walter. So it's been a win-win. No, I'm serious.
In which way?
I'm always happy to hear from you, and yeah, you're a big part of the Zooms for me, Walter.
You know, to me, it is so amazing. Like yesterday, I saw this documentary about alcoholism, and it's a proper one. You know, there suddenly it became clear to me about this neurotransmitters, how this works. You know, and why some people are attracted to alcohol and other people are to cocaine. For me, it was basically alcohol. You know. Now they also showed something about Iceland, which used to have a major alcohol problem, you know, 30 years ago. It's gone. It's gone. because the government, the psychologists, everybody work together from, hey, how we solve this problem, and they are solving it.
Where's this?
They became aware of this whole neurotransmitter stuff and the
Iceland.
psychology. Iceland,
Oh yeah,
I
I have
mean,
a calling to go to Iceland.
I can only advise you,
I'm serious. I have an Icelandic connection. I don't know where.
Go in the summertime. Maybe I
Yes,
join you.
that's for sure. Summertime, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's great. Yeah, this is about this is like the liberation of Walter, go into the same water fountain that has a bad pressure. Yeah. All right. There's other water fountains that has good pressure. So those water fountains when it barely comes out, it sort of sucks. Yeah. And then it's a nice when you hit a water fountain and it hits you in the
Yeah,
face.
it gives
You
over
haven't
here,
seen
the
the old
meetings
water
and the
fountain,
people.
you
I
said,
really
I
look
had one
again. It's just
I had it yesterday. It was great. This thing works. You had 2 feet of catching the water wherever you wanted. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, there's different spigots of AA and community. Just find one that's got a wider mouth, so to speak. More
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. There's whole setups you can look on. There must be lineups on the internet where you can see Zooms.
My God, Paul, I went through quite a bit. I had 2 attacks. I got out of an alcohol psychosis, so my world was quite small.
Yes.
I'm totally grateful. I didn't completely lost my sanity. I'm 65 and finally I'm becoming sane, which is again a miracle. It's unbelievable,
Yes, great, bro. Yeah. Well, if you ever decide to leave, just let me know.
To be continued.
Yeah, great. Thank you. To be continued. Yes.
Yeah.
I think we have 2. We have Greg and Mike. I'm willing to stay if people are. Let's go.
Hey, Paul.
Yes. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing actually really well. I just got blood today, so I'm out. I have lots of energy running errands. I just wanted to share 2 experiences about service and about the first one I want to share about family. So I wasn't around for my first son when he was born. I didn't meet him until he was in his late 20s, mid 20s, late 20s. And I remember going to my sponsor because it was in this run of sobriety, 20 years or whatever. And I go like, what am I going to do with this situation? He said, well, you know where he is? I said, no. Do you know how to get a hold of him? No. And he says, well, you just got to stay busy, focused on what you need to do in your own life and turn it over to God because it was bigger than I could handle. And one day I got a letter, I got a Facebook. And he said to me, I think you're my dad. I wrote you a song. And I won't go into that part of it because he used to be a gangbanger. But long story short, doing what my sponsor asked me to do and just focus on staying sober and becoming a better version of myself. He lives across the hallway from me now. And I get to enjoy his company. We don't see each other a lot, which is great, even though he's right across the hall. But we've become incredibly close. Like I would have always been there. And I get to enjoy seeing my granddaughter every weekend. She's 10. So that's one thing I wanted to share about. There's lots of things that have happened. I didn't know how to show up, and with a little direction and some refocusing and letting go, the infinite intelligence took care of it for me. And I don't know any other way to explain that. But and then the next thing was, as far as other service goes, a couple weeks ago, I was looking for people to hang out with that have some common interest with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so there was some people in AA, but I put together a worldwide walk for raising the consciousness of humanity along with the rest of that group worldwide. And I'm thinking like, what am I thinking? What am I doing? Nobody's going to show up. It's only a week away. Like almost 30 people showed up. It was super rewarding. A lot of people from the fellowship came as well and really enjoyed themselves. And it was just really cool to do something out of context and just, change things up a bit and not be involved in it for myself. It's like, there's nothing I can do about what's going on in all these different areas in the world. But I can change myself by turning it over and asking for some guidance and direction. And the whole thing with our walking meditation is what are you willing to give up? And that day, what I was willing to give up was my time and my energy and to meet like-minded people to bring a new kind of consciousness into humanity. And it's just beautiful. And I think that's what we're doing here too. I mean, what a great group. And I'll back up to what Walter was saying. You and this group has been helping keep me alive, man. Whatever alive is, right?
Yeah.
In this body or out of this body, it's been a super huge reward. And I just want to say thanks for letting me be part of this adventure.
Oh, you're welcome, bro. More
Yes.
than happy. It's like the peace train. You don't need no ticket. You just get on a board. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you.
Mike M. And
Hey,
then
Paul, thanks. Thank you so much, as always. Two things. There's a show on Netflix called Parasite that I think you'll really like. I won't give you any of the backstory, but it's pretty obvious what it is, but it's a Korean show. Second thing, years and years ago, my sister, she had, just like me, had gone in at so many rehabs and detoxes, but I had a premonition of her overdose and death. It was weird. It was like 6 months. I told my mother, I said, I think 4 to 6 months, this is going to be it. She's like, no, we'll get her help. And you just know when somebody's at the end of their rope, or many ropes, I should say. And it was pretty obvious. So I started going to Al-Anon meetings. I started speaking to people that had had experiences with either dealing with somebody going in and out. Because even as an addict and alcoholic, I was still feeling resentment and anger towards her. And I got to really give myself to this other program, this Al-Anon program. And I was able to show up and be of service to her and be a kind, loving brother, regardless of her. Like, I couldn't go into her house because she was shooting dope and drinking and who knows what else. But I said, hey, meet me outside. We'll go to Starbucks. And the last day that I saw her, man, I gave her a big hug and I told her I loved her. We're here for her. Whatever you want to do, I'll take you to a meeting. And she died about 3 days later. They found her dead 3 days later. But it was almost, there was like this big relief that she was out of that misery, man, because it's so gripping, this thing, So I like that we can be there for people and set aside whatever we think it should look like and the resentment and the anger, whatever. So there's not what, is called that quote unquote survivor guilt, right? I knew I did the best I could. I could be the best brother that I could. Same with my mother. And we had to pick up all these pieces and clean her house out. And, I thank God it was sober for that. Like, I'm really glad I got to experience that in a sober state. That's the first thing. The second thing, man, is the one thing I don't really hear in meetings. I go to meetings where they pick out a line, a phrase, or a passage from the book, and we've spoken about it here. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Or people claim spiritual progress, and like you say, but I'm still really fucked up over here. And it's like, there's been a practice of not doing that. And in not doing that, there's this trickling into this matrix of like, oh, yeah, I'm progressing. Like, if I look at the former self and the bondage of what that thing had me in, there really is a migration towards freedom and this enlarging of this spiritual life that literally shuts out any of those voices that are trying to be these contaminants, you know, it just shuts it out. So I like that idea of claiming spiritual progress. I used to be against the gratitude list and all of that fake it till you make it. Fuck, at this point, man, why not? You know, why not act as if or fake it till you make it or write gratitude lists? Jesus, this thing is coming at me in so many directions. It's like, who am I to limit what may possibly work to shut that whole fucking thing down? So you guys, Paul, you have any idea how grateful I am for this, man? Because I just need to hear this a couple of times a week because there's still the idea in meetings, I'm not dissing meetings, whatever, that like we're just gonna be sick all the time. And I can't fucking subscribe to that garbage anymore, man. Like, I
Great.
really like this idea of claiming spiritual progress. Much love to you, my brother. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, man. That's a great meeting today. Let me say goodbye. Michael, that was great. And everyone here who spoke was very nice. Thank you. And yeah. We treasure your, intimacy and the vulnerability. Yes, yes. Yeah. Jacob, as always, nice to see you, bro. I think we're coming back there in June. I'll talk to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ma-
Alex and I.
Yeah, yes. Martin, thank you. Thank you you ran a great meeting today. Kathy in Cleveland, Axel, Germany, Miak in Novato. Mickey, the matriarch, Joseph, France, Lucia, John in Florida, Miss Volkman. We've got can't see Walter. We got Bill Churchman. We got Reuben. Nice to see you, Reuben. Yeah. Let us know how it goes. Give us a report. Linton in the Isle of Jura. Greg Shandaruk.
Yes.
Jeff Penfield. Thanks, Greg. Fantastic share. Kurt, as always. Roman Mueller. Darren. Nice to see you, Darren. There. Brian, Minnesota. John M. Oliver. Berlin. We got Tom and Rob, Kentucky. Matthias in the Netherlands. Annette. Roman in Germany. Let's see. Brian in Minnesota. Nice to see you, Brian. Ben, phone numbers. Hey, thank you, everyone. Yeah. All glory to recovery. Yeah. I mean, you have to admit you probably feel better than you did when you came here. It's nice, eh? How much heavy lifting did you do? You didn't even have to put on a pair of pants or anything. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Paul.
Paul.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks, Martin.